Welcome to Insight. In today's program, we have with us Dr. Atta Quddus, who received his MSc in Satellite Communications and his PhD in Mobile Cellular Communications, both from the University of Surrey, UK. He is currently a lecturer in Wireless Communications in the ICS, the Institute of Communications, at the University of Surrey here in the UK. During his career, he has led several successful UK national and international research projects and currently plays an active part in the 5G IC research program of the Institute of Communications. Dr. Quddus is also a principal developer of a professional link-level PHY simulator which has been used in industry by both cellular network operators and chip manufacturers over the last several years. In 2004, he won the Centre for Communication Systems Research Excellence Prize, sponsored by Vodafone, for his research on adaptive filtering algorithms. We'll also take a look at Dr. Quddus's own research to better understand his work, and we'll walk you through the career paths one could take to embark upon this field of scientific research. But before all that, let's take a short look at a day in the life of Dr. Atta Quddus.
Welcome to University of Surrey. I'm a lecturer in wireless communications here in the Institute for Communication Systems, which is right in front of us. Today, I'll be sharing with you a day in my work life. So we are here in the 5G Innovation Center, which is a building where I spend most of my day. This was built in 2015, and at that time, it was UK's first dedicated research center on 5G. So within the 5G Innovation Center, we have got a testbed facility that consists of about an area of 4 square kilometers that has got about 44 base stations or external towers that provide cellular connectivity, and they all are connected to this server room which provides the core network that provides all the routing and switching capabilities. So this shows the top level view of the university and where the external base stations or towers are located. Some of them are small cells, some of them provide large coverage areas, but they all are connected with this core network, and this core network is then connected with Vodafone's core network that is located in Newbury. So when the 5G Innovation Center was established, it had the support of external organizations and companies like the BBC, BT, and Vodafone. Now we have got about more than 70 external partners. On a typical day, when I have some teaching, I come about 8 o'clock in the morning, as typical lectures start at 9 a.m. Then I make my way straight to the lecture theater to set up the lecture arrangement, check up the audio video. Typical lectures last for 1 to 3 hours, and then when I'm back at my office, typically I have got quite a few emails from queries from students or from my research collaborators. I respond back to them, and then I turn my focus towards my research. So as part of my research, I have to read technical papers and reports, sometimes reports from standardization bodies, so that we are aware of the current state of the art, and with our research, we can further advance the scientific know-how. So as part of my work, I develop signal processing algorithms. So I write down some mathematics, I draw some diagrams, some constellations, and when I'm done, I develop an algorithm. Then in computer software, we got a package MATLAB. When we run that, then we do a rapid prototyping, do some simple programming in MATLAB, and when we run it up, we can see how our algorithms work, see the performance of our proposed schemes. As you can see in this diagram, we got one signal with 16 bits per sample, the other one has got 4 bits per sample. This, when we reconstruct the signal, it's got a worse performance as compared to the signal having 16 bits per sample. Then once we are happy with the modeling of the algorithm in MATLAB, then we go and actually do the programming in C++. As you know that C++ provides faster execution time. So we actually model the program, do the programming in C++, and then once we are done, we can execute our algorithms, and then we can run long simulations. As you can see, this is one of the 5G simulators that I have developed over here. It has got typical parameters for a 5G cellular system. We can provide the signal bandwidth, we can provide the transmit power, and then once we can provide the environment in which the signal is going to be simulated, whether it's a indoor environment, outdoor, vehicular, and then when we run the simulations, then we can see the key parameters of interest, such as what is our throughput in the current situation and what the blocker rate. So these are some of the key metrics that we can evaluate and see out of this simulator. For research agenda, depending upon the project, we have got project meetings, last from 1 to 2 hours. Then within the ICS, we got work areas. So that work areas are collaborative tools in which people working on more or less similar kind of area, they get together, one of them present, the other one listen, and they provide some feedback, comments, and that is how we get some more research innovative ideas as well. In the afternoon, typically I may have a meeting with my postdoc RAs. We discuss the work, we take the next steps, we prepare the presentations, and then some part of the day I like to spend reading the papers and thinking about some further research ideas.
Viewers, as you have just seen there, a brief introduction into the life of Dr. Atta Quddus. Let's now delve a little deeper into his career choices by speaking to the man himself, Dr. Quddus. Welcome to the show. First of all, let's start off with the basics. What is telecommunications and what impact does it have on the general public?
The fundamental problem of telecommunication is to reproduce a message that is selected at another point. The 2 points could be either in space or in time. So as far as communication in space is concerned, like myself communicating with yourself sitting at another point, this is an example of communication in space. But we could also have telecommunication in time, and an example is when we write data on our hard disks, on our CDs, we read out at another instance in time. That is also an example of telecommunication, but at 2 different instances in time.
And so how could a school or college student, for example, get into the field of telecommunications? What may the potential requirements be for that person?
The field of telecommunication is basically a subfield of electrical engineering. So if anyone who is interested is highly advised to take the first degree in electrical engineering, whose scope is quite wide, and after doing the first degree, one can go into various areas such as either power electronics or signal processing or optoelectronics or nanoelectronics or even audio, video, speech processing, video processing. So signal processing and telecommunication is one particular option that becomes available to anyone who does the first degree in electrical engineering. The typical requirements are, of course, good grades at A levels. Mathematics is, of course, is a must subject. And in addition to mathematics, one is advised to take either physics or electronics or computing.
Oftentimes, we see that solutions are sought to address some sort of pre-existing issue or problem. What does your research try to address? What issue does it attempt to resolve?
The field of telecommunications has been an active area of research for the last few decades. However, it still is a very vibrant area of research. There are many research problems that still need better solutions or new solutions even today. So among the challenges that we are facing is better utilization of the radio spectrum, because the bandwidth or the set of frequencies at which we communicate is limited. So we need new ways for better utilization of the radio spectrum that can minimize interference. We also need energy efficient operation, which is quite important these days due to the issues with climate change. You'll be surprised to know that the base stations or towers from which signal radiates is consumes so much power over the course of year that it constitutes a significant proportion of the UK's total electricity consumption. So we definitely need new solutions that are energy efficient. And as we go into future, we need to increase the data rates further higher. We also need to reduce the two-way delay or latency over the network so that new applications can be supported.
And so in terms of yourself, your team members, your colleagues, have you experienced any sort of scientific breakthroughs?
Not as a breakthrough, I would say, that has been adopted globally, but certainly we have come up with some of the solutions to the problems that I mentioned before, and that are being researched elsewhere as well. Predominantly, my research has focused on reducing the interference and also focusing on improving the coverage of cellular networks. Often you would have come across situation in which there is not enough signal at your mobile. That is an outage problem. So my recent research focuses on coming up new ways and solutions by which these outages could be minimized.
And from a consumer perspective, are there any practical applications of this research? Are there any practical benefits to the consumer?
For sure, when the coverage improves, the end user will experience less number of outages. They will experience better signal quality. That will also enable them to sustain more data rates, and in general, they will have a better experience or better quality of experience.
Dr. Quddus, thank you for sharing your insight with us. And now we will move on to the next part of the program where Dr. Quddus will walk us through his research in more detail. Over to you, Dr. Quddus.
I'm going to present before you the historical developments in the field of wireless communications from early day primitive systems to modern day state-of-the-art 5G systems. And in that context, I will also present my own research in this field. It all began with a humble beginning by the development of telegraph in 1836 by Samuel Morse. This was a device that was able to send information from one place to another over a wide medium by means of electrical signals. Samuel Morse is also credited by the development of Morse Code that you can also see on the right-hand side on the slide. This code was very cleverly designed. As you can see, it consists of only dots and dashes. Thereafter, Alexander Graham Bell developed a fixed telephone in 1876. Round about the same time, further developments were being taken place, particularly by James Clerk Maxwell, who discovered the rules governing the behavior of electromagnetic waves. Then about 1887, Hertz actually demonstrated the existence of electromagnetic waves. Further developments in this field came by the works of Guglielmo Marconi, who for the first time demonstrated wireless transmission in 1895. However, that was over a distance of only few kilometers. Marconi kept on improving his equipment, and by 1901, he was able to demonstrate wireless transmission across the Atlantic Ocean over a distance of more than 2,000 miles. However, the antenna Marconi used was more than 150 meters wide, as you can see in the diagram on the right-hand side. The antenna that Marconi used was 150 meters wide. From that, you can guess or you can gauge the advantage or the progress we have made from that point, as these days, the antennas that are located on mobile phones are so small that they are barely visible. To summarize, by 1970s, the public switched telephony network had already penetrated in almost all countries of the world, and telephone became a worldwide necessity. Thereafter, a revolution came when in the early 1980s, a wireless telecommunication system was established, which is called the first generation of mobile cellular systems. In UK, it was known as TACS, or the Total Access Communication System. This system proved for the very first time that it was possible to have a mobile phone on the move. Then in the early 1990s, the so-called second generation of mobile communication systems were developed. These systems still exist with us today, and they provide the concept of global roaming. That is, you can take your phone to any other country of the world and you would still be able to use it. GSM also came along with an app or application, that is SMS messages, which still exists with us today. So from 2010, 4G systems came into the operation. These are also known as LTE or long-term evolution systems, and these have been able to provide wireless broadband. So let's look at the usage of data, and there are some statistics on the slide. As you can see that there are almost 6.4 billion smartphones. That is, almost every person in this world has a smartphone, and the mobile web traffic is the predominant traffic that is carried over the global web traffic. There are more than 250 million apps which are downloaded every day. There are almost 5 billion YouTubes every day, and more than 4.4 billion social media profiles exist. And just by taking the example of one social media account such as Instagram, there are more than 50 billion photos, and same numbers exist for other platforms. So this shows that the wireless or the data usage has continued to grow exponentially in the last few years. So that produces a problem that the current systems, for example, the 4G systems, would certainly not be able to accommodate this growth in traffic. So this constitutes what we call as crisis or capacity crunch. And the prime reason is the capacity of the systems doubles every 10 years, whereas the mobile data usage doubles almost every 2 years. And the reason behind is we got limited bandwidth. If the bandwidth were infinite, of course, we would have been able to carry on or support such an increase in data. So it was in this context that 5G systems were developed, who were supposed to be more spectrum efficient, and they were able to provide millions of connectivity, millions of devices need to be connected with the system. And they've also reduced the delay or the latency over the network. And 5G systems have also been able to provide new services, such as support a vertical industry, such as autonomous cars, vehicles, which can drive driverlessly, which can communicate with the roadside infrastructure, cars can communicate with the other cars and maintain their safe distancing. So similarly, the 5G systems have found their way or usage in the industrial automation sector, where there are millions of devices, sensors that need to communicate wirelessly. And because 5G systems have been able to reduce the delay or the two-way latency over the network to less than 1 millisecond, they have been able to provide services such as remote surgery. Similarly, these smart meters, they can also use 5G services. So because of the high speed as well as the mass connectivity, 5G services have found their usages or application in many other industries. So in this context, my own research focuses on improving the coverage in typical wireless systems. So even present-day modern cellular systems like 4G systems or even 5G systems, sometimes they have got coverage problem, as can be seen on the diagram in the slide on the left-hand side. This shows a typical deployment of base stations or towers with 3 cells at each side. And as you can see, this diagram shows signals where there is good coverage by pixels of red intensity and where we got low coverage by pixels of blue intensity. So you can see that the dead spots have been distributed all around the network. So my current research has focused and shown that there are certain ways by which this coverage can be improved, as can be seen on the diagram on the right hand side, where you can see that the pixels of blue intensity have been reduced, although at the expense of some slight reduction in the pixels of red intensity. But the overall network coverage improves. Furthermore, my research also focuses on the modeling of cellular systems, as the systems are quite complicated. When the signal leaves from the base station, it reaches the mobile phone through multiple ways, through multiple directions. It gets attenuated, reflected, diffracted, etc. All these need to be modeled mathematically. So my current research also focuses upon modeling the cellular system so that before they are deployed, we can have an idea about their performance. So I do research, I model the algorithms in the form of programming language like C, C++, and then when we are able to provide input parameters into these tools, we get the metrics, and then we are able to see whether the metrics that we are achieving, they are in line with what other companies are producing. So the diagram on the right hand side shows the result I produced in the red color, which is in line with the results obtained by other major players in industry. So once we have got a calibrated platform, then we can of course evaluate new algorithms and to see how much further improvement in performance can be obtained. So in this field, imagination is a limit. Thank you very much.
So as a university lecturer yourself, what advice would you give a school or college student coming into the field, wishing to come into the field? What should they try to attain in terms of subjects, grades, and so on?
So I've been, as being an academic, I've been involved in student recruitment as well. I think it's quite important to apart from producing a good application, your personal statement over there is quite important. And it is also quite important that apart from getting good grades, if you've got some experience, some work experience, that doesn't have to be working with some company, but anything, for example, you have prepared some products or some kind of demos in this area. I think as a university lecturer, we highly appreciate that, and we value those students who have already put their hands into developing something or producing something.
And what sort of subjects or grades do you think would be required or expected?
I think mathematics is a must, because all engineering is basically applied mathematics. But in addition, subjects like physics or electronics or computing, they will be highly desirable if you have studied them and obtained some good grades in them.
Dr. Atta Quddus, thank you very much for sharing your insight with us and with our viewers, and for sharing those golden nuggets of professional advice. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Viewers, as you saw there, scientific research covers a vast array of topic areas and subtopics, each with a plethora of applications to address real-life issues. This brings us to the end of our program today, and I hope now, like me, you are also a little more enlightened into the wonderful world of telecommunications. Do join me next time for another episode of Insight.